Let's talk about regular expressions. Now, regular expressions aren't unique to Python. As a matter of fact, you see them all over programming languages. But I'm going to teach you regular expression just quickly because they are very useful, especially when you're doing, let's say, validation, like checking that somebody has entered the right email, or you have password requirements, or you want to check if a piece of string exists in a piece of text. So this is something that we're going to explore in this video. Regular expressions. What are they? Well, luckily for us, Python comes with a regular expression module. Remember, regular expressions aren't Python specific. You can use them pretty much in any language. But they're very useful for finding things in a piece of text. So let's say we have a string here. And we can say string search inside of this text, please. There we go. Now, let's say I wanted to search for something here. First of all, could I do something like this? Could I say search in string? Let's print here. And if I click run, I get true. And this is a simple way for us to search something inside of a string. So why do we even need regular expressions? Well, regular expressions are a little bit more powerful than just this, because maybe we want to search how many times search occurs in the string, or maybe we have a complicated string. Let me show you what I mean. The way we use something like regular expressions is using this format. So I can say re dot, and then in here use search. And as you can see here, we give it a pattern and a string and some flags. We'll talk about that a little bit later. So all we need to say is, what pattern do you want to do? Well, I want to search if this exists in the string. So I can say this, and then give it the actual string. In our case, well, this is our string. So if I run this, well, let's print out what happens here. So let's do print. If I click run, all right, I get what I call a match object. A regular expression gives us an output, not just true or false, but an actual object that tells us a little bit more information about this. And you can see over here, one of the information is the span. So where it occurs in the string. It occurs at index of 17 and ends at index of 21. So that's really useful. Let's store this information and just say A here. So what can we do with this match object? Well, the first thing we can do is to check what we have. So we have, first of all, span, which we've seen. And if I run this, it tells me where the string occurs as a tuple. So index of 17 to index of 21. I can also do start, and start, well, tells me when the text starts. And I can also do group, or actually, I can also do end to show me where it ends. And then I can also do group. And group returns the part of the string where there was the match. And let's say there was another this in here. If I click run, you see that, well, it only gives me that piece of or part of the string that there was the match. Now, group is really useful when we're trying to do multiple searches. So in our case, we are just doing one search. So we have a pattern that we're trying to match. But there's ways that we can do multiple searches within the one line. But before I show you that, what happens if we do something that doesn't exist, such as this with a capital S? If I click run, I get an error because now A is going to be none. Because if the regular expression doesn't find anything, it's going to return none. So it's either going to return a match object or none. Now, how can we make this more advanced? Well, one thing we can do is to create a pattern that we want to check for. So let's say pattern here. And this pattern, we're going to use regular expression.compile. And the compile is going to allow us to give, just like we did here, a pattern. So let's say in here, I simply want to check for this. Now, this pattern I can use, instead of just doing re.search, I can just use the pattern now to do the search for me. So again, if I run this, well, now I don't have to pass it this. I need to just pass it the string that we want to search. See that this is being captured, and I can use pattern now everywhere, multiple times. So let's say I can do pattern dot all the methods that we have. We have quite a lot, actually. Let me show you some of the useful ones. We have find all, which finds all the instances of the match. So let's say in here, B, and click run. Look at that. I have this and this. So I get both instances of this inside of a list. I can also do something like full match. And full match, well, makes sure that everything matches fully. So if I click run here, let's print C here, click run, I get none because I don't get a full match. In order for a full match to return the match, it has to be the exact string that we're searching. So if I click run, there you go. I get a match object now. Now let's say I have a question mark in here instead of an exclamation mark. If I click run, it's none. If I have exclamation mark and then maybe something else afterwards, I still get none. We also have another option, which is match. And match, as you can see, matches 0 or more characters at the beginning of the string. So if I do string here and I print D, well, actually, let me change this up. Let's do here, Andre, in the string that we're actually comparing. And if I click run, I still get a match object, versus if I do C, which uses a full match, which gives me a none because, well, we only want an exact match here, versus a match that matches the string and then doesn't care what comes afterwards. So this is extremely useful. But up until now, I mean, we get a couple of methods that we can use, which are quite useful, but this doesn't seem that powerful. Why do all languages have regular expressions? Why do we really care? Well, in the next video, we're going to explore this idea of pattern and how we can do some really advanced patterns. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye. Welcome back. Up until now, we've found just simple patterns, simple text patterns in our string. Nothing too crazy. But where regular expressions become really useful is for advanced patterns. You see, with regular expressions, you can do some crazy patterns like, let's say, this. And this looks like complete gibberish, right? But this means something in regular expression. You can think of regular expression as an entire language in itself, with different patterns that you use to find, well, patterns inside of text. Now, the whole world of regular expression is really, really complicated. As a programmer, I don't expect you to learn all these patterns. You can see some of them here. We have special sequences that mean something, like /d returns a match where the string contains digits, number from 0 to 9. You have things like sets over here, where if you type in a regular expression this, it returns a match for any characters, alphabetically between A and Z, whether they're lowercase or uppercase. So there's all these little shortcuts and tricks that you can write in a regular expression. And things can get really, really complicated. So nobody actually memorizes these things. You develop them as the need arises. And as a matter of fact, later on in the videos, we'll do an exercise where we'll actually experiment with this and create a password checker and an email checker. Now, one of the tools that I really like is called regex101.com. It's super useful. All you do is we'll pick Python, and it'll give you regular expressions and a testing ground for you to test. For example, if I wrote something like, "Hey, how are you?" I can now enter a regular expression here and try things out. So for example, if I type in, "Hey, how are you?" Well, this doesn't really work. Maybe I can add some quotes around here. But nope. And it actually gives you some options and information as to what you can use. So for example, let's say we wanted to check if, well, right here, a character in a range A to Z or A to Z. If I copy this and I paste it in, look at that. It gives me full matches that I have. In this case, I am checking to see, hey, does it match any character between A to Z, both lowercase and capitalized? Everything is matching right now. You see over here that we have match 1, match 2, match 3, so on and so forth. I can also group things. So I can do brackets here. And now this is the first capturing group. And then I can do something else here. Let's say in here, I want, let's say anything that is A. So what does it mean here? Well, I have an explanation on the right-hand side. The first capturing group says, hey, match a single character present in the list below. So it tells you A to Z, capital A to Z. And then the second capturing group is, hey, match a single character present in the list below, which is A. Now in here, I have two capturing groups. So the first capturing group and then the second capturing group. If I add a dot here, which is a special meaning in regular expression, if I hover over, you see that it matches any character except for line terminators. So what am I doing here? Well, I'm first have, hey, I want you to check for the first capturing group, which is any single character in the range between A to Z. And then after that, I want any character. And then after that, I want you to search, well, for any matches of A. So this is what we match for. We match W because we're looking for any letter, and then a space or any character, and then an A. So now we have a full match, which is W to A, and then we have group 1, which is W because it matches the first group, and then group 2, which matches the A. Now, I know this is confusing. Regular expressions is one of those things that it's really hard to figure out at first. So let me show you how we can use it. If I go to code generator here, you'll see that I can actually just, well, give you a sample code that you can use in Python. But what I like doing is actually copying this piece of text like this and going back to our code editor. And in the compile, paste it in. Now you'll notice that there's an R here, and R stands for a raw string. Because in Python, something like a slash, backslash has special meaning because remember, with backslashes, we can do special things like new line or tab. An R says, hey, this is a raw string. Ignore everything that Python interpreter might interpret. I want this to just be a pure string. So you'll see this a lot with regular expressions. Now, if I run this code, you see that I have SEA here. Again, it's because I am searching for a letter, followed by anything, followed by A. And if I have a group here, which I'm searching through, if I do group 1, I get S. If I do group 2, I get A, just like we did in our playground here. Another useful thing is in here. If you look at the quick reference, you can actually search for things. So let's say I wanted to check if a test string has maybe starts with. So I can type in start here, and you can see here that, it gives me a quick reference. So if I do start of string, it shows me, hey, use this character and it'll help you do start of string. So if I do, let's say, in here, this caret and say, hey, look at that. It matches it for me. So it says, hey, assert position at the start of line. It explains exactly here how it works, and it tells me that I have a full match here. Now, most of the time, the way you'll be using regular expressions isn't like this. It would actually be quite hard if you're just figuring everything out yourself. Like I said, nobody really memorizes these things. You can see that we have quick references with common tokens that you can look through and understand. But a more practical way of actually learning about regular expressions is to see a real life use case. Now, I'm going to leave some exercises for you that you can do if you want to learn about some of the common patterns. From my experiences, this is not something that anybody's going to ask you about in an interview. You don't really have to memorize regular expressions. You just need to know what they do. So try the exercises if you want. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video to show you exactly how you would use regular expressions in a real life scenario. I'll see you in that one. Bye-bye. Welcome back. Up until now, we talked about regular expressions quite loosely. And I mean, you should understand that it helps us match different things together. But the problem is, well, how can I really apply this to real life scenarios? Well, a good use case is perhaps when you're collecting emails. Maybe you're creating a startup. This startup wants to collect, let's say, emails of interested customers. Now, we want to make sure that whoever is interested in our startup enters proper email addresses, right? Because we don't want anybody to fill our databases or our Excel sheets with random words. We want to make sure that something is a correct email. Otherwise, it says, hey, this is not a correct email. Please try again. And regular expression is a great thing to use for validation and just making sure that whatever a user inputs or whatever another machine inputs into your code is in the correct form. So let me show you an example of how I would do this. Let's say I want to do an email validation. Well, the first thing I would do is simply type in Python email validation regex. And here you see here that we have a lot. How to check for valid email addresses. And pretty much the first couple of answers are going to be what you're looking for. I like this one. Email address regular expression that works 99.99% of the time. That's good enough for me. So in here, you see that we have some idea of what we can use. If I scroll down, looks like we have regular expression for different languages. All right, let's do Python. I'm simply going to copy this. And now in here, let's go to our regular expression 101 and just copy this in here. Now, I get an error because you see here that the R is already included because I've selected Python here. So let's just remove the brackets. Again, if we hover over here, it's going to tell us about each thing that it's trying to do. And we also have the explanation. So this is how I like using regular expression. I find something online that people have used in the past. I don't try to reinvent the wheel and then try to understand it. So just to test this out, if I type in an email address here, look at that. I get a match. I get a full match and it matches the group one. Let's go one by one. First, I see that I have the brackets. So this is the capturing group. I'm trying to capture one data point. If, let's say, I enter another email here, that's not going to capture it. If I go like this, it's not going to capture it because, well, we're looking for one capturing group. Okay, next I see that it's asserting a position at the start of the line. So the start of the line, we want to make sure that it captures this. So it matches a single character present in a set. So this email can be anything. It could be letters, it could be numbers, and then finally it could be underscore. it could have a dot in there, it could have plus, it could have minus, and then finally, plus is a quantifier. So it matches between 1 and unlimited times. So this string can be as long as I want, and it's still going to work. It's going to accept plus, minus, it's going to accept underscore, but it's not going to accept an exclamation mark because it's not in here. All right, so that's good. What about next? Well, the next part is the @. It's literally the @. We have to make sure we have it. And then after the @, once again, we have the characters that we can use with a plus at the end to say, hey, you can have as many of these as you want. Perfect. Next, we have a special one. Matches the character dot, literally. So because dot in regex, if I remove it, actually means something, it matches any character, 1. We want to make sure that the dot, well, is exactly what we're looking for. There needs to be a dot for, let's say, .com or .ca or .net or .org. If instead I didn't have this slash, this could be any character. This is still a matching string without a dot. So again, special character right here. And again, it actually gives you explanation. So if you scroll down through here, it'll tell you exactly what it does. All right, after the dot, once again, we have anything that we want within these square brackets, then as long as we want, and then finally this $sign says, hey, it has to end with this. This is the end of the line. Awesome. So using just that, we're able to figure out exactly how to do an email validation. So all I need to do now is, let's say, go to Code Generator, copy this piece of code. Again, we're using a raw string because we want to make sure that Python interpreter just doesn't try to add any special abilities to it. We just want to make sure that this is a raw string. Make sure I end that. All right, perfect. So now inside of this string, let's say I have an email address that a user sends me, such as b@b.com. If I just remove all of these and just do a pattern, and let's just simply do, well, let's just check if A exists. If I click run, all right, this matches. But if somebody gives me a wrong email address or something that's not formatted properly, let's say just like this, and I click run, I get none. So I could do an if statement saying, hey, if there's no matching object, well then tell them, sorry, try again. Very, very cool. So I have an exercise for you. Using what you've just learned, and definitely your Google skills, because with regular expressions, you will Google. You're not going to memorize any of this. I mean, I don't. What I want you to do is to create also a password checker. So the password has to have a few requirements. So the password has to be at least 8 characters long, and it can contain any sort of letters, numbers, and you know what? It can contain, how about these symbols? That's it. So write a regular expression just like this using this regex 101. And in the next video, we're going to try and do this as well. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye. All right, let's see how you did here. Now, I could just Google this and figure it out on my own, and I recommend that you do that as well. But for now, just based on the fact that we only have 2 things, let's try and write this from scratch. Again, not something that I recommend, but hey, this will be fun. Let's give it a go. So how would I search for this? Let's say I want to make sure that it's a password, again, 8 characters long or more. But first I want to make sure that the password contains any sort of letters, numbers, and these symbols. You know what? Just for fun, I'm going to add an extra challenge. I'm going to say it also has to end with a number. Now, I know this is completely useless because you wouldn't want a password like that. That's way too restrictive, but I think this would be fun. Now, in here, we want to check a password. Let's say it's super secret. It has some of those symbols that I mentioned, and it has to end with a number. So we have to match all of this, and it's over 8 characters. The first thing I'm going to do is use our square brackets and say that we want to check for A to Z, which we've seen before. If I scroll here, we have A to Z. We also want to make sure it's lowercase as well, so A to Z as well. All right, we're matching some of the things. You also want to make sure that, yeah, you can use numbers 0 to 9. All right, so we have some numbers in here. Let's say if I added some numbers, that works as well. And we also want to make sure that we can use some of the symbols. So let's just add the symbols that we can use. Let's go back to here. We can use these symbols, so let's just copy them and paste them in. All right. Everything in here that matches is good. And looks like, yeah, we're matching things right now. That's good. But if I enter another letter here, that's not going to work. We want to make sure that it ends with 8. We also want to make sure that it's going to be at least 8 characters long, because I could just do this and everything still works. So how can we do it? Well, let's look at the reference here. If I scroll down, let's see. We have exactly 3 of a kind, 3 or more. Okay, this might be useful. A, 3, comma, and these curly bracket matches at least 3 consecutive 8 characters. All right, so it shows you exactly what it does. I think this is useful. So we want to make sure our password checker is at least 8 characters long. So we're matching, instead of A, we're matching this whole string, and it has to be at least 8 characters long. So let's make it 8 characters long, and look at that. This is matching. Awesome. Now the next part is we want to make sure it ends with a number. So how can we do that? Again, let's check out here if there's anything special. Let's do number or digits. All right, look at that. Any digit. So let's say any digit. So this /D is going to match any decimal digit, equivalent to 0 to 9. All right, so if I do, let's say /D, all right, everything is still matching, but if I type anything else out here, yep, now it's failing. So there's our password checker right here. So I can just go to code generator, copy this, go to my REPL, and here let's just create a new one, say password, that will have the compiled pattern, R, and then paste this in. So this is going to be our password, and I'm going to check our password. Let's say B, or let's just say check equals pattern, or instead of pattern, let's do password. And then we'll do a full search. And in the full search, we'll give it the string. So the string that we're going to check will be the password. So let's just change this up. We'll say pattern here, 2. So this will be pattern 2, just so we name it properly. And then the password is going to be string, some passwords, some numbers, maybe some symbols here, and then ends with a number. So let's see if that works. If I do password here, and I do check, click run. Oh, it's not full search. It should be full match. If I click run, there you go. Everything is working. As soon as I type in a letter in here, I get none. If this is less than 8 characters, I get none again. Very, very cool. Hopefully you were able to get that. If not, like I said, I think out of this entire course, this is probably the least important section. I know I'm telling you this at the end, so you at least do it. But I wanted you to know that regular expression is a thing that you might encounter and you might use throughout your career. But like I said, it's one of those things that if I had to rank the importance of, it's probably at the very end. So hopefully your head doesn't hurt too much. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.